I think that someone's raising another issue in the chat. I think AVIFLVNJ. This story is bullshit. If Penn State covered up Sandusky, I'm sure U of I is capable of covering up a bad story here too. This is not a bad story. This is a story of what happened, a horrific quadruple murder. What the university is covering up is they're covering up that they don't want to lose any more enrollment because of this horrific event. And guess what? They can't erase this event. It happened. The quadruple murders happened. But they're trying to politically bury it faster. Don't we all want to honor these 4 students that lost their lives for no reason? But yet it would seem that the university and the town of Moscow, Idaho can't put this behind them fast enough so that people forget about these kids. Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Zana Knodel, and Ethan Chapin. I don't think we should ever forget about them. But it seems that the university and even the investigators, they don't seem forthcoming to me. Look, I worked for 10 years in Manhattan North Homicide Squad, one of the premier homicide squads in the nation, not just in the city, in the state, in the nation, all right? So we would be all over a case like this, and after it was over, you couldn't stop detectives from talking to the press and talking about this case because they would have been proud of their work. But there's obviously some political force, and vis-a-vis, we all thinking it's the University of Idaho, stopping these investigators from talking about this case. And I can't say 100% it's them, but that's what I'm thinking it is.
According to a surviving roommate, the killer, Bryan Kohberger, used Kaylee Gonzalez's name before he ended her life. If that surviving roommate was right, he knew who Kaylee was. He knew where Kaylee lived. And it might just have been a targeted attack with Kaylee Gonzalez being the target, or at least one of the targets. Here's where I want to add some context, and it's important context. From the thousands of pages of case files that we have been reading since this crime was committed nearly 3 years ago, that surviving roommate, Dylan Mortensen, gave more than half a dozen interviews to the police after the murders. And while her story has remained really, really consistent, most of the answers that she gave about what she heard that night included hearing the words, "It's okay, I'm here to help you." It's okay, I'm here to help you, without Kaylee's name attached. So this is the first time we're hearing that at least one of her statements to the police included hearing the killer saying Kaylee's name. There is also this from Washington State University, where Kohberger was teaching as an assistant. He was pursuing his PhD in criminology. And we knew that he was unbelievably unpopular there. We knew that there was friction, especially with the female students and the female colleagues he had. But in these new documents that we've been able to obtain, they're still not public, but News Nation has obtained them. In fact, Bryan Enton, my colleague, who's been working doggedly on this story for the last almost 3 years, was able to get these. We're told that a criminology professor issued a stark warning to other professors and other supervisors, a warning that Bryan Kohberger might just become a predator. And again, in these documents that our Bryan Enton has been able to obtain, this is what this professor says. Kohberger is smart enough that in 4 years, we will have to give him a PhD. Mark my word, I work with predators. If we give him a PhD, that's the guy that in many years, when he is a professor, we will hear he is harassing, stalking, and sexually abusing. These were words that were spoken months before the murders.
Thank you.
So, I almost got Cuomo. So, there were warning signs about BK. his behavior. Let's not forget he was a graduate assistant that was teaching students. Scary teacher to have, right? Numerous complaints by his female students. They were afraid of him. Inappropriate behavior, not showing up to work on time, 15 minutes, half hour, hour late to class. So all of these things were warning signs. And this professor that was speaking was worried that this guy was going to become a PhD. And once he had his PhD, he was going to be even more dangerous because he would have access to all of these students. Mike?
Yeah, you would think that looking back, and we saw this with his master's professor, Dr. Rawlinson. She said he's brilliant and whatever, and she never saw I guess because they were really meeting online and in Zoom meetings and things like that. They never really had a lot of face-to-face interactions in person. She never really picked up on a lot of his issues. But that professor there, in real time, not just in hindsight, but in real time, picking out the fact that this guy's a really sick puppy and he's going to get a PhD and he'll have all this power and all this access to ladies. Now, remember, if you look at the timeline, he gets there, starts teaching in August. Within 2 weeks, he's got his first complaint against him from female students. He berates them. He loses control. He doesn't know how to act appropriately. He has no EQ going on. It's really sad. And there were red flags. I hate to use that term, but there were red flags. There were warning signs. And this professor picked up on it. Good for that professor, because that professor knew what they were talking about and saw somebody who was a real sick, dangerous person. And they try to say it in as academic way as possible, but what they were saying is absolutely 100% correct. This guy is a dangerous person, and they did end up eventually telling him that you're out of here. You're out of here. That was right around the time of after the homicides, but very short thereafter. They had him on the radar really quick, really soon. They knew this guy was not cut out for this kind of work. What they saw in him was not an earnest person trying to be a really great criminology student. What they saw was a predator, and kudos to that professor for saying that.
100%. Folks, this police off the cuff, real crime. If you like real crime, true crime from a police perspective, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, hit the like button, make comments, and share us with your friends. If you want to contribute financially, we have a Patreon with 4 different levels, and we also have a YouTube channel memberships with 5 different levels, and you can join our YouTube family by signing up for that. In addition, we have a new FanDuel is our new sponsor over the Believe Network, the new sponsor for Police Off the Cuff. FanDuel, an American gambling company, offers sportsbook, daily fantasy sports, horse racing, and online casino services. Founded in Edinburgh, Scotland in 2009, it began as the news prediction site HubDub before transitioning to its current services. FanDuel's partnered with the NFL, NBA, WNBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, and PGA Tour, and operates FanDuel Racing and FanDuel Face-Off. FanDuel, the new sponsor of the Police Off the Cuff podcast.